Hello, everybody. I see everyone is already active and lively in the chat. What's going on? My name is Rodney. If you already knew that, thank you so much for coming back and watching another edition of Raiders Daily, Thursday and Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, live on Bleacher Report. Whether you're watching live on Bleacher Report, make sure we are chatting and commenting away. Having a little mic issues earlier, so if everyone can tell me if they can hear me and see me okay, that would be perfection. If you're watching after the fact on YouTube, hit that like button and comment away. I read them all. I love hearing you guys' takes and opinions. Earlier today being the time of this recording, 7 Mountain Time, Thursday, May 15th, I made about a 15-minute video breaking down the schedule, just kind of going through it. I did a live stream reaction on Wednesday, reacting to it. I evaluated it a little bit on YouTube earlier today, and now we're going to do a deep dive, and there's a lot to discuss here because I want to talk about the specific advantages we have. We also have a person that we hired from the Eagles front office that I want to talk about a little bit as well, because these are some of the moves here. Like, we all want to talk about the schedule and trading for this guy and signing that guy and UDFAs and Ashton Genty. But the front office is extremely important, and we signed somebody away from Howie Roseman. It's the second guy we stole from the Eagles in a matter of months. And now we're going to get rocking and rolling with what type of front office we are building for the future. So we're going to talk about all that. I said this on YouTube, and I'm going to say it again on here. You are crazy to think that I'm going to come on here and do a win-loss prediction. I'm going to give you my vibe, my read. I look at the schedule and I go, feels like certain amount of wins, XYZ. And we'll talk about specific games where I think we have advantages and disadvantages, but I'm not going to do a win-loss prediction video. We'll read one of those from a Raider insider because it's fun to read that stuff, but I think it's too early for that. I see Raider Newland. I see Wavy Trent. I see Jay Soletto. I see Feet. I see a bunch of people in here. I will say I am waiting on an update from a specific viewer about whether their son won their flag football championship. The lack of the update makes me think maybe we didn't win the game, but I'll leave it up to them to let me know and discuss. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, put them in the chat there, and I will get to them immediately. So, look, we're going to talk about the schedule a lot. We got polls here for you guys to read or for you guys to vote in. I remember when other teams used to steal our guys. Yeah, it's nice to kind of get one back on these people, right? Before we get into the schedule at large, let's talk about one of the guys we stole from the Eagles. This is SportsIllustrated.com via Michael Canello on Sports Illustrated. Oh, wasn't good. We lost 36-34. Hey, we fought hard. We'll get them next year. No doubt about it. The Las Vegas Raiders offseason moves continue. The Silver and Black are adding another front office personnel member with Brandon Hunt. This was 6 hours ago. The Las Vegas Raiders are continuing, their moves this offseason. The Silver and Black have made a lot of moves this offseason in many different areas of the team. The Raiders have had a major shakeup with the roster, coaches, and upstairs personnel, thank God. All these moves are set up to get the Raiders heading in the right direction. The Raiders are set up for success, and now they have added another personnel person coming in that will be good for the team's success. The Raiders franchise, along with head coach Pete Carroll and general manager John Spytek, will welcome Brandon Hunt to the organization. Let's see what we can learn about old Brandon Hunt here. The Raiders are adding Hunt, is set to take an executive position with the Silver and Black. This is just one of the latest moves the Raiders are making. Hunt will be part of the Raiders' success, and it's a great pickup, says Michael Canello. Brandon Hunt, who was interviewed for multiple GM and assistant GM positions in 20 years in evaluation, is leaving his post as senior director of scouting with the Eagles. You're going to tell me the Eagles aren't consistently, sans Jalen Reagor, one of the most efficient and deadly front offices in the National Football League. And now we've got, what is his senior director of scouting? Now we've got him on the staff. Let's go. Okay, to take an executive position with the Raiders. Hunt also worked with the Texans and Steelers since playing O-line for IUP and Inside the League on Twitter. Okay, Inside the League, Brandon Hunt, who was interviewed in multiple GM jobs. Okay, we just read that. Per Raiders, Hunt comes to Las Vegas from the Eagles, where he's part of the Super Bowl 59 championship. 58, 59? I forget. He also recently served as senior director of scouting in 2024 after 2 seasons as director of scouting, 2022 to 2023. So look, Hunt spent 12 seasons as a pro scouting coordinator for the Steelers. Yeah, pretty good. I mean, from 2007 to 2009, he served as a pro scout with the Texans. He's part of Pittsburgh staff when they won the Super Bowl back in 2005. I mean, look, this is, you know, is it trading for Devontae Adams? No. But again, when you talk about establishing a culture, not only is that on the field with the type of players that you bring in, not only is it the type of coaches that you bring in, a Patrick Graham, a Chip Kelly, seasoned veterans who know how to work the system here, and obviously Pete Carroll fits that bill better than any coach you could hire. But the front office is also something that needs to be within that same culture and needs to have a specific identity. When John Gruden and Mike Mayock were running the show, we didn't have any idea what their identity was. Same thing with McDaniels and Ziegler, and Telesco's identity was just like draft the best player there. Okay, that's fine. Didn't really care about, the type of attitude he had, good or bad, or if we needed that position, we're like, let's just take Brock Bowers. Not crapping on the Brock Bowers pick. I'm so happy that we have him. But getting John Spytek from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, from Jason Light. Jason Light John Spytek was one of the people that had those meetings with Tom Brady when he was still playing to break down the scouting reports for all these teams. Getting this guy here, Brandon Hunt, from Howie Roseman and the Eagles, where the last 2 years they've drafted so ridiculously well and signed people and changed positions and turned them into all pros. Cooper DeJean and Jalen Carter and all these guys, Nicholas Baum, all these guys trading for A.J. Brown. This guy, Brandon Hunt, was a part of that. And bringing him in here to team up with John Spytek, this also shows me that John Spytek knows what he knows and he knows his limitations. When Antonio Pierce became the head coach, I thought he would be successful because he seemed to be bringing in people that usher him in, because the situation that he came into wasn't normal. He was an interim that was never a coordinator and just leaped to head coach. So AP brought in Tom Coughlin and Marvin Lewis and all these guys, Joe Philbin, and I thought they would help him. And instead, there were too many cooks in the kitchen. What John Spytek is doing is surrounding himself with experienced individuals like Chip Kelly and Pete Carroll, because they are significantly older than him. They're both in their 60s or 70s, and Spytek is in his mid to late 40s, I think, maybe mid 40s. And now he's bringing in probably one of the most successful scouting directors in the National Football League over the last 5 years, from probably the best GM in the league, Howie Roseman. The guy who drafted Jalen Hurts, and within 2 years, he supplanted the all-pro, or not all-pro, but Pro Bowler Carson Wentz. It's a bottom-to-top culture build, says Fee, and I could not agree more. So we're going to talk about the schedule, but building that front office is so important. And this guy, Brandon Hunt, is another step in the right direction. And think about it from Brandon Hunt's perspective. This guy took an executive position. I'm sure he's being paid a lot of money to leave the Eagles, where they have aspirations of going back to back, right? Was somehow convinced by Brady and Spytek and Pete Carroll, the Raiders is where you need to be. You built that team with Philadelphia. We're building something special over here. We're going to try to, in theory, on paper. And we need somebody who was part of the architect of one of the greater teams of the past 5 years, this Philadelphia Eagles team, who doesn't have a weakness on it. Say for Jalen Hurts at times, but when the game is on the line and the lights are shining brightest, there's no better quarterback than Jalen Hurts, to be honest with you. This guy's got this clutch gene in him that's insane. Maybe Brandon Hunt was part of finding Jalen Hurts. Who knows? But what are we saying about this guy here? Spytek has history with the Eagles. Yep, he worked with Howie Roseman as well. Imagine a front office that actually hits on multiple draft picks every year. Seems like we might have stacked the odds here, stacked a couple drafts in a row, even though Telesco was the one who drafted last year. The only thing better than playing and winning is playing and losing. True. We're going back to the Flag Football Championship. Total rebuild in the front office. If they can hit on some of these draft picks this year And then from here on out, with all the guys in their places, we are in a great spot. Again, couldn't agree more. And the last thing I'll say about the front office in particular, something that not a lot of people are talking about, and I think, I could probably bring it up here, is the salary cap situation. Let's bring up NFL salary cap, or no, cap space, excuse me. Cap space tracker. So let me bring this up before I say something that I don't think is correct. Yep. Okay. So I'm going to share the screen here with you guys in a second. Let me close these ads. Okay. The last thing that SpyTech has done masterfully, in my humble opinion, is set us up to be in a position for this post June 1st window, which is rapidly approaching here. Because if you look at the top 5 teams with the most cap space, the Detroit Lions, that's interesting. You got the Patriots, who filled a lot of holes, the 49ers, Detroit, Tennessee, and then Las Vegas. Okay. And we've got 1.6 million reserves, which means that this post June 1st window where people start to get cut and into the second wave of free agency, what I call it, when teams start to put people on their practice squad, when teams start to cut people to make room for their undrafted free agents, we're going to be one of the teams ready to pounce on that linebacker who, his timeline doesn't fit with the San Francisco 49ers. So they cut him and then we gobble him up, or that safety or that corner who wasn't meshing well with the Green Bay Packers system. So now he's got to go with Pete Carroll and Patrick Graham. We are in position here, especially with Geno Smith taking a little bit less money than maybe initially thought, to be able to rock and roll post June 1st with all the money that we have to spend. Because we don't have to worry about paying like crazy extensions anymore. We did it. We got the extension with Max Crosby done. We got our quarterback, and we still have close to $40 million in cap space. And I think that's on John Spytek to create this amount of flexibility for us going forward here. So let's talk a little bit about the schedule after I take a gigantic sip of water because my mouth is dry. I got an ice cube in there. Hold on. Shout out to Ice Cube, Raider fan. Okay, the schedule. What do I want to do here? I want to do the schedule. This is an article on Bleacher Report. We'll talk about some of my takeaways after we read this, and then we'll get into a win-loss because I know you guys want to do a win-loss. So, we'll do that. But it's not going to be mine. I'm going to wait and hang on to do that. So Bleacher Report says here, Timothy Rapp. Las Vegas Raiders head into the 2025 season with a completely new look. Tom Brady is now the minority owner. Pete Carroll is the head coach. John Spytek took over general manager, and Geno Smith was signed to address the quarterback position. And the team made big splashes in the first round of April's draft, selecting Ashton Jeanty. By the way, this schedule release was all time. The Office is my favorite video of all time, or my favorite TV show of all time. And this video, just pitch perfect. John Spytek, pretty decent actor, I have to admit. There's the Raiders schedule. We'll keep that up after I talk about my takeaways here. But will it be enough to go from a 4-13 record to a winning campaign? Are the Raiders now trending up after an offseason of change, or will it be business as usual for a franchise that has managed just one winning season in the past 8 years? Ouch. Let's take a look at the slate the Raiders will face as they attempt to answer those questions. And here is the analysis from BR. The Raiders don't have an easy schedule with 9 matchups against playoff teams from a year ago, 6 of those in the AFC West alone, while the Raiders also tangle with the defensive champions, Philadelphia Eagles, Washington Commanders, and Houston Texans. They also have potentially tricky matchups against a number of teams who look poised to be improved from last season, including the Cowboys or the Bears. But there are very winnable games on the schedule as well. The Jaguars made a big splash in the draft, trading up for Travis Hunter, but they are rebuilding. The Colts look like a team that will hover around 500 again, maybe a little less. The Tennessee Titans have hope in Cam Ward, but are far from being contenders. The New York Giants should be better than last season, but don't have a playoff roster just yet. The Cleveland Browns have the most cluttered quarterback room probably in the history of the world, and the Patriots in a very early stages of their own rebuild. Predicting the Raiders to reach the postseason feels hasty given their tough division, but this is the team that absolutely should improve upon last year's 4 wins, and fans are excited as StubHub revealed a 123% increase in interest after Jeanty's selection. That's crazy. That's a little bit of inside information. That's fun. If the Raiders are going to have any chance to reach the playoffs this season, they're going to have to fare better in the AFC West than they did a season ago, where they were winless in the division. I don't think we're going to be winless, but it's going to be tough. The issue is that none of the Kansas City Chiefs, Los Angeles Chargers, or Denver Broncos got any worse. That's on paper. That's correct. No doubt about it. The Chiefs have topped the AFC West 3 seasons in a row, and while some of their key pieces are getting older, any team with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid is formidable. The Raiders, the Raiders know that. I think that's what it's supposed to be, better than most. They're just 4-20 against the Chiefs since 2013 and 2-12 against Patrick Mahomes. Barf. One of those wins is Aiden O'Connell. Oh, it should have been 2 of those wins. The Chargers continue to craft a roster in the mold of Jim Harbaugh, and have already made the postseason last year. Drafting Amari and Hampton, signing guard Mekhi Becton should improve Harbaugh's ground and pound scheme, while Justin Herbert will have another season to develop with breakout wide receiver Ladd McConkey. Finally, the Broncos added a number of weapons for Bo Nix, including Evan Ingram, RJ Harvey, and Pat Bryant. The team also added upgrades on defense and is looking to prove that last year's surprise playoff appearance wasn't a fluke. Okay. So there's a lot to discuss there. And I want to hear your thoughts on the schedule as well. And just because I'm not predicting wins and losses right now, I would like to hear what you guys think. And I'm going to put this poll out here as I talk about some of the takeaways that I've got watching or, looking at the schedule yesterday. So I talked about a couple of these things on YouTube. I'm going to hit a couple of those again. So if I repeat myself, I apologize. But then there's some new things I want to discuss just for Bleacher Report people. Of all the teams that we're playing this coming season, I like to look at it in terms of where do we have the advantage at quarterback? What are we going to do in the division? And how many elite units are we going to play? So what do I mean by that? Well, for example, the Philadelphia Eagles have an elite offensive unit and a close to elite defensive unit. Looking at the schedule, I truly believe the Eagles are the only elite offense we'll play all year. The Chiefs are very good, but Kelsey is a shell of himself until the playoffs, and even in the playoffs, it's not great. And some of their wide receivers that can be very good struggle to stay healthy, and their offensive line is not good. They're relying on a left tackle who's a backup, right? The Chiefs are going to be a good team, but they don't have any elite offense anymore. Their defense is elite. And the Commanders, in theory, could have an elite offense, but I'm going to reserve the right to hold out on saying that they're going to have an elite offense until I see Jaden Daniels be able to maintain what he did his rookie season or elevate it, right? Because we don't know what year 2 quarterbacks can do. Look at C.J. Stroud. The fall off was a lot. So of all the teams we play, I only think there's one elite offense, and that is the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, defensively, there's a lot of tough defenses. Within the division, that's 3 tough defenses. The Eagles, like I said, is a tough defense. The Giants drafted Abdul Carter. That could be interesting. You got teams like the Cleveland Browns, who are always stifling on defense. The Chicago Bears had a good defense last year. The Houston Texans with D'Amico are going to be coached to have a good defense. That's where Chip Kelly needs to earn his paycheck. Now, I'm not expecting to make the playoffs year 1 with Pete Carroll. His first couple seasons in Seattle didn't go swimmingly. Like that season they made the playoffs with that beast mode run of all runs, Beastquake, against the Saints. They were 7-10 that year and snuck in, won a division at 7-10. And then from then on, it was dynasty time. So I'm expecting to be more competitive. And the way we're going to do that is to find a way to combat a lot of these tough defenses that we're playing. Because our defense isn't going to be great. We lost a lot of guys. Hopefully some young guys can step up, and hopefully Pete Carroll and Patrick Graham can coach up the rest of the people. But with all that said, we're not going up against a lot of great offenses. And specifically against teams that have young quarterbacks. 7 games that we play this season, assuming that Jackson Dart is starting at some point, assuming that Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel makes a start at some point. 7 games this year will be against first or second year quarterbacks. Now, Jaden Daniels is great. Caleb Williams, we'll see. But that's the reality of our schedule. 7 games are against first or second year quarterbacks. And if you throw Anthony Richardson in there, that's 8 games against quarterbacks in year 3 or lower. And that's where Pete Carroll and Patrick Graham have to flex their muscles inside their brain and show that, all right, you're a good young quarterback, but we're going to out-scheme you. We're going to outwork you. We're going to run the ball, and we're going to protect it with Geno, and we're going to work the clock. which is another big takeaway. We're playing, one really elite offense. We're playing a lot of tough defenses, and we're playing 8 games against young quarterbacks. The travel is tough too, because besides that stretch in late November where we go Cowboys Browns, we don't have back-to-back home games. We go to New England, then we're back home against the Chargers, then we go to Washington, then we're back home against the Bears. It's back and forth, back and forth. Now Pete Carroll is 24-11 in games on the East Coast. So he knows how to coach that jet-lagged body clock. But it's going to be a tough task for the Raiders this year, no doubt about it. So I've got 100% of the people thinking we're in the 9 to 10 win range. I think if you combine, and there goes one of those people. If you combine the 7 and 8 to 9 and 10, that's where I feel like 7 and 8 wins is probably where I have them right now at the moment. But again, I'm not going to give you my complete win-loss. By the way, I got my dad texting me, am I home? I'm live on Bleacher Report. He's not even watching me, that bum. Anyway, there are also 5 games. Now this is my most important point, and I talked about this on YouTube. Let's see here. Share the screen. Bang, bang, bang. Okay. So here's our schedule. Thanks to Sean Reed. Okay. How does that look? Does that look good? Yeah. Okay. So of all the games on this schedule here, I've got us with the distinct quarterback advantage 5 games. Okay. I'm not going to count any of the second-year quarterbacks. So Jane Daniels doesn't count, Drake May doesn't count, Bo Nix doesn't count, Caleb Williams doesn't count. The reason I'm not counting them is because we don't know if what we saw last year is what we're going to get this year. That goes for Jane Daniels. We don't know if he's going to be as good as he was last year. That goes for Caleb Williams. We don't know if he's going to struggle as much as we did last year. That goes for Drake May. We don't know if he's going to ascend and get better or if he's already hit his ceiling. So I'm just going to take all those teams off the board right now. The teams that have the better quarterback, Justin Herbert is better than Geno Smith. I've got people in my comments going, you really think Herbert's better? Like, what are we giving all this? Guys, there are 32 general managers in the National Football League. Every single general manager would take Justin Herbert over Geno Smith. I promise you that. I don't think Justin Herbert is the second coming like a lot of people say that he is. But if we're going Geno or Justin, give me Justin. I'm not going to lie to you, okay? You can make the argument that it's close, but he is the better player. Patrick Mahomes, better than Geno Smith. Jalen Hurts, better than Geno Smith. Dak Prescott, again, better than Geno Smith. Maybe we're splitting hairs here, but Dak Prescott, I think, is the better quarterback than Geno Smith, and I think most GMs would agree with me. But also, when I make these predictions, I'm trying to lowball it. Because maybe there is a world where Geno is better than Dak, and now there's 6 games where we have the advantage. But to say there's 5 sets you up for more realistic expectations. So the teams where we have the distinct quarterback advantage, Chicago. Nope, not Chicago. I took them off the board. Indianapolis, Tennessee, Jacksonville, Cleveland. Am I forgetting a team here? Where's the is there 17 games here? Oh, no, wait. We're missing 2 games. And New York. Sorry. So those are the 5 games. If you go 5-0 in those games, you're going to make the playoffs. But most likely you won't go 5-0. If you go 4-1, you have a decent chance you have 3-2. Now we start to get a little dicey. Because assuming you split the division games, which is a big assumption, you can go 2-4 on those. You're going to have to go 4-1 in those 5 games that I just listed. Again, those games are Indy, Tennessee, Cleveland, Jacksonville, and the Giants. Okay? The other thing I want to do here before I'm going to take another drink of water, I'm just warning you, is talk about the coaching advantage. Where do we have the coaching advantage? Because if you're wishy-washy on is Geno better than Herbert, is Dak better than Herbert, or sorry, is Dak better than Geno, is Bo Nix better than him? I don't know. That's where you bring the coaching into all of it. So if we go game by game here, the Patriots, we've got a better coaching staff. I don't care. I think Pete Carroll's a better defensive mind than Mike Vrabel. I think Chip Kelly's a better offensive coordinator than Josh McDaniels. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what anybody says about Josh McDaniels. I will never say another positive word about him. The Chargers staff is pretty good. I think right there, I'm going to give the edge to the Chargers just because they've been doing it for a year longer than this staff that we have, and it's going to take a second to mesh. The Commander staff, again, same thing as the Chargers. I think in theory we could have a better staff down the run, but we don't know how well our staff is going to mesh. We've got a better staff than the Bears, the Colts, the Titans. The Chiefs have the best staff in the league. We've got a better staff than Jacksonville. Probably have a better staff than the Broncos, although they have a better roster. Definitely have a better staff than the Cowboys, the Browns, the Giants for sure, and the Eagles probably. I don't know. We'll see how their new offensive coordinator is. But we've got advantages on the coaching staff to run through a couple of these games and steal a couple. Oh, Houston. Houston's one of those teams that's not there too. We probably have a better staff than Houston, but they definitely have the quarterback advantage. I'd say C.J. Stroud is probably better than Geno Smith. So all that to say, I think you guys are right. 7 to 10 wins is where I got the vibe. Oh, I want to pull that back up because I got another poll here. Sorry to give you a little whiplash there. But I'm going to end this poll here. I'm going to read the chat here before I get to my last poll. And then we'll do some win-loss. Going to be 4-2 by the first Chiefs game. We'll talk about that in a second. I've got concerns about the back seven on defense. How linebacker and DB play this season will determine our season. I think you're 100% correct on that. If Geno was Herbert's age playing how he is now, I'm not sure he'd be better. I don't know, dude. Justin Herbert threw like 2 interceptions this whole year. Geno Smith threw like 17 or something. Or not 17. It was like 14. I just think Herbert's a better player. It's okay to say that, but you could be right. I don't know. I'm not putting my life savings on it. Geno outdueled Justin last year with a terrible O-line. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see, man. Okay, last thing I want to talk about is the bye week. So we've got 7 games before the bye. In theory, we should have a puncher's chance in all of them except for probably the Commanders game because that's a tough game to travel to. Even the Chiefs, like we always play them tough as of recent. So let's just pretend you beat the Colts and the Titans pretty easily. 7 to 10 point wins. Okay. Let's split the division games again. So you're 2-0, 3-0, 3-1. You lose to the Commanders, you're 3-2. What happens with the Patriots and the Bears? If you split those, you're 4-2. If you lose them both, you're 3-3. Or sorry, no, 4-3. If you split them, you're 4-3. If you lose both, you're 3-4. So here's my final question to you before we go into some win-loss here from Hondo Carpenter. What do you expect the Raiders' record to be by the bye week? I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I think. Oh boy, I mean, again, this is hard because you just don't know, like injuries and coaching and the quarterback play. I think we win 4 of these games. Yeah, I think we beat the Chargers, the Bears, the Colts, and the Titans. I think we start the season 1-2. We lose to the Patriots and the Commanders. This is just gut reaction, and then win 3 straight, and then lose to the Chiefs. Again, I'm not beholden to this. This is not my official prediction. We could easily beat the Patriots. We could easily lose to the Bears or the Chargers. But 4-3 just feels likely to me. 3-4 also feels possible. A lot of people are saying 5-2. I get the optimism is strong with you guys. I get it. But last year I was burning my predictions, so I'm trying to play a little safe. 4-3, but if 5-2 they beat the Chiefs, I don't hate that. All right, so I'm going to end this poll, and we're going to get into some Sports Illustrated win-loss, and then we'll get the heck out of here. It's going to be Hondo Carpenter. I know some people don't love him, but I still like him, so I'm going to do it. I don't care. It's just one man's opinion. You're just watching my opinions. This is just another man's opinion who is an insider. Way too early prediction for all 17 regular season games. Okay. So what does Hondo say? This is my 6th season as a beat writer covering this team. That's crazy. He's been here for 6 years. In my first season, I was off by 1. In 2 of the 3 years, I nailed it. I was terrible in 2 of those years. Okay, my prediction method is simple. I have done it the same way for 4 years, giving you a worst case and best case scenario. I look at games and ask if they played 10 times, how many do I think each team would win? I like that. Of course, this is very early. More players will be added and some will be hurt. But if I look at the games and think one team wins 6 or more, I predict the other conversely. I like that. I believe that if the team goes 5-5, I give the edge to the home team. There are 10 areas in which I can judge a team, thus determining my favorite. Way too early prediction, blah, 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 blah. Hondo says, week 1, when the Pats sell out on the run, the Raiders' fourth quarter is going to be dominated by the arm of Geno Smith, which would be the difference, and the Raiders start the season 1-0 on the road. Okay, that might be where I differ from Hondo, already. Okay, let's see what he says. The Chargers and the Raiders have a tight battle that comes down to the foot of Daniel Carlson as the nation watches Monday Night Football. While far from a finished product, the Silver and Black serve noticeably that they are tough and get to 2-0. He gives a loss to the Commanders, obviously. Okay, loss to the Bears. The Raiders are a young team, and young players can make young mistakes. The Raiders are no exception, and a key turnover by a young. I love that he is so specific about these predictions. By a young Raider player leads to a late Chicago Bears scoop and score. Oh no, the Super and Black face their first game of the year where they lose a game they should have won. I like that. The Colts, double digits. They're not on paper. They're not very good, right? The Titans, not great either. 4-2. That makes sense to me. We lose to the Chiefs 4-3. Now it's going to get interesting here. Jacksonville, we win. Eventually, the relentless Raiders rushing attack and tough wear and tear upstart the Jags. Hondo has us going 5-3. Losing to the Broncos to go to 5-4. Losing to the Cowboys to go to 5-5. Beating the Browns, who have no idea who their quarterback is, 6-5. Lose to the Chargers, 6-6. Broncos win 7-6. Eagles lost 7-7. Texans lose 7-8. Beat the Giants 8-8, and maybe to get into the playoffs 9-8. The Las Vegas Raiders entered the last game with a chance to finish over 500 in Pete Carroll's first season, and the teams that love their new leader doesn't disappoint. Ashton Gently has the best game of the season, rushing for over 150 yards. And while the Silver and Black finished one game out of the NFL playoffs, they end on a very high note and entered the offseason riding a wave of optimism, 9-8. In mid-May, I believe the Raiders' best case scenario is 10-7. Worst case is 9-8. The prediction is based off the franchise's totality, including talent, coaching, schedule, and the what now? The ancillary things associated with it. Okay. I don't hate that, Hondo. I think right now I got is 8-9, but again, that's just vibes. That's just initial vibes. If the Raiders add Jalen Ramsey or Jair Alexander, I'm going to add that in there, or any proven TV, I might swap an early L to a W. And only time will tell, boys and girls. But here's what I'll say. That's going to be it for me. If you're watching on Bleacher Report, thank you so much for joining. If you're watching after the fact on YouTube, hit that like button, comment away. I'll be on same time tomorrow, Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Please be sure to subscribe. It's free after no charges to you. I love you guys, and I'll see you next time.